remember to turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Another day, another shonen female hater. The shonen female defense force is back to counter these poor arguments by the haters. Today, I'll be responding to Why Does Naruto Have So Many Terrible Female Characters? By J. Lyle Writes. Let the prosecution begin. Jay starts this video with logical points. He says, the crux of the problem is that there aren't that many of them when referring to female characters, and that the men outweigh the females by at least 2 to 1. I'd say at least 3 to 1, but the point still stands. I've made this argument in my other videos before. He asks, why are there so few women? Well, considering Naruto's from the shonen demographic, meaning it's aimed at men, unless it's a harem of big busty women, which Jay seems like the type to complain about, there's gonna be primarily men. Quote, the sheer fact that there are significantly less female characters in the series impacts the likelihood that these characters will make any real impact on the plot. End quote. I agree. This is what I've been saying. Now here's a goofy quote. Quote, the gender does not hold any particular significance to the story, so why not even the odds and make an extra one of them a girl? Not only would this help in creating balance, it would also diversify the plot. Every story that could ever be told cannot be told from a male's perspective. End quote. Can you see the problem with this sentence? The beginning does not connect to the end. If their gender doesn't hold any significance in the story, how would adding females diversify the plot? Why would it matter if the story is from a male's perspective or a female's perspective? Quote, very little of them go through any growth or change. Neither do they seem to have any wants and desires that aren't related to another male character. They lack development, and development is what makes good characters. End quote. What's ironic is that he shows Sakura and Hinata during these scenes. No matter how biased you are against these two, it is a fact that they go through character arcs, which classifies as character development. Here's the most simplified version of these two. Sakura pre-timeskip can't fight and relies too much on others. Timeskip Sakura can fight and joins Naruto in trying to bring back Sasuke. Pre-Neji fight Hinata is timid and manipulatable. Post-Neji fight Hinata is confident and mentally strong. Then the second part of the argument is that connected to men argument that I've countered before. Basically, all the men of the story also have their wants and desires related to another male character. Let's visualize this. Imagine a bunch of dots on a paper. 90% are blue and 10% are pink. If there is at least one line connecting each dot to another, most pink and blue dots will be connected to another blue dot. No character lives in a bubble in Naruto, and most of their goals connect to someone else. Either his argument is that he wants women to connect to other women, or he wants women to be on their own. If it's the former, that would mean that he completely forgot about the ratio that he started the video with, making that unlikely. If it's the latter, then he's asking for special treatment for the females, which is dumb. He says every time that Sakura had a chance to change, she decided not to. So what about against Team Dozun? What about during the time skip? The only example he gave is Sakura failing to kill Sasuke. Then he switches to complaining about Sakura thinking about Sasuke too much, which has nothing to do with his argument. She developed, and development is what makes good characters, according to him. Quote, when you hold Naruto's female characters up to their male counterparts, either the two on their team or to any other male in the series, they seem to pale by comparison. The men seem to have very clear motives of what they want, and their desires always come from something personal that isn't related to men or women. End quote. Before he does his checklist, I will do mine. First, I'll start with the desires. Then I'll compare the clarity of motives between men and women. Naruto wants to become Hokage to get the attention of his village, and he wants to save Sasuke. Sasuke wants to kill Itachi. Sakura wants to marry Sasuke. Lee wants to be a splendid ninja without ninjutsu or genjutsu. That's about it for Konoha. The only character you could argue that has a goal disconnected from anyone else is Lee. Now the second half. Sakura's contemporaries are Kakashi and Sai. Neither have a goal. Ino's are Shikamaru and Choji. Neither have a goal. Hinata's are Kiba and Shino. Neither have a goal. Tenten's are Neji and Lee. Only Lee has a goal. Now let's look at Jay's list. For Sasuke, he doesn't mention killing Itachi, which was his longest lasting goal connected to another man. He does, however, mention avenging his brother, which connects to another male character. I'll come back to Naruto. For Sakura, the first is to not be weaker than the other men on her team. Notice how he couldn't just say she wants to be strong or she doesn't want to be a burden. He had to tie it back to a male. Well, two can play at that game. For Naruto, he lists wanting to bring back Sasuke, which is a goal connected to another male. And he also lists Hokage, which could easily be tied back to wanting the attention of his village, which includes males. So in his own list, he proves me right, but he is somehow unable to notice the flaw in his argument. I believe that this is because he's so hell-bent on proving something he already decided was true, rather than thinking critically enough and bringing those thoughts to their logical conclusion. How can you, in the same script, say, the men's desires always come from something personal that isn't related to women or men, and then say that Sasuke wants to avenge his brother, a male, and Naruto wants to bring back Sasuke, a male? He's contradicting himself. To top it all off, he says, this is the trope of the female character in Naruto. Their desires are unclear and unsubstantial. End quote. but he just got done clearly stating Sakura's desires and then says they're unclear. Then he says that Tenten, Ino, and Hinata don't have personal desires or motivations. Okay, but neither do their male teammates, which I said before. This line applies to Shikamaru, Choji, Neji, Kiba, and Shino. So why isn't he coming after them? Because that would hurt his argument and prove that what he perceives as flaws aren't unique to females. Then he attacks Kurenai. He says that in comparison to the other male teachers, she has a low amount of history and wants and desires. In reality, there is a split between Kakashi and Guy versus Asuma and Kurenai. We know nearly as much about Kurenai as we do about Asuma. The only extra bit of info Asuma has over Kurenai is that he was a monk in the past. His history is as vague as hers, and so are his wants and desires. Once again, Jay manipulates information to suit his argument. I agree that she barely fights, but Asuma only had one more fight than her. Not a very relevant point since character development is his measure of quality. And then he says this nonsense. Quote, the manga even went as far as to relegate her to complete obscurity by making her a mother. They gave her a baby and then she disappeared. If that isn't evidence enough of what Kishimoto feels about women characters, I don't know what is. End quote. Now I'm mad. This isn't the first time I've heard crap like this. It's like disrespecting femininity, particularly motherhood, is a box that every SFH has to check. Kurenai chose to create life by having a child, and Jay's dunking on her for this? In a story stacked with orphans, Kishimoto decided to write a character who decided to focus on being a mother rather than a ninja, and this is somehow bad? Tell me, what does that say about Kishimoto? That he supports motherhood? That he supports childbirth? And what does that say about you? That you hate mothers? That you didn't want to be born? I guess Jay didn't grow up with a mom. That was uncalled for, wasn't it? You see how disrespectful it is to psychoanalyze a small action and draw out a disrespectful conclusion from it? This man had the audacity to try and insinuate something negative about Kishimoto through something so harmless. What is wrong with these types of people? Quote, when she had the baby, we had to say goodbye to her. End quote. You don't say. A pregnant woman had to take a break from being an assassin in order to make sure that the child was born and that she could take care of it. Who would have thought? It's not like maternity leave exists in real life. If a woman in the military gets pregnant, she should stay on the battlefield and put that baby's life at risk because female screen time and equality is our priority. F them kids. This is so stupid. And then he says we didn't know what happened to her team. He says that the story didn't care, but Team Kurenai doesn't really appear as a team after this point. I don't even think Jay cares about what happened to them. He's just finding anything he can to make females seem worse. He compares the lack of captain replacement in Team Kurenai to Team Kakashi. You know, the main team, the team with the titular character. Of course they're gonna get more attention. I've even shown how the characters on Team 7 have clear desires and goals compared to the other characters on the other teams. It's common sense to spend more time on the main cast than the supporting cast. Quote, I can safely say that the audience knows more about him than we do Kurenai. End quote. Yeah, obviously. He became the captain of the main character's team. We know more about Yamato than we do about Asuma. How come he doesn't bring that up? Because it would hurt his argument. Up until the war, we knew more about Yamato than Guy. In fact, I could argue that we still know more about Yamato. Characters in close proximity to the protagonist are more likely to get screen time, which increases their chances of development. He categorizes women in two ways: issues with inadequacy and trying to prove themselves, or they have love interests that drive their actions. He says that there are women who aren't in either, but I'll tackle that later. First, who cares? Trying to prove yourself or having a love interest drive your actions are not negative traits of a character. Is his argument that only females fall into this category? That's not true, because Naruto and Lee want to prove themselves, and characters like Jiraiya and Lee were partially motivated by love. But even if it was, again, who cares? That's not a flaw. And then when acknowledging female characters that don't fall under these categories and are thus good, he says, quote, but often these women are too peripheral to need development. We don't need to know what Temari wants, end quote. Who are you to decide which characters need development and which don't? This is another dumb argument. No character needs development. And considering his metric for a good character is development, how come Temari gets a free pass even though we don't know her motives, wants, or desires? This is hypocrisy, and it happens when you don't have a clear understanding of what makes a good character to you. He doesn't have to have the same grading system as me, but if he wants to be a critic, he needs to have a consistent grading system, and this video shows that Jay lacks that. His entire premise was supposed to be, character development makes a good character. The females don't have development, therefore they are bad characters. But he keeps losing focus and has yet to prove that. By his own standards, Sakura should be good and Temari bad, but he conveniently forgot Sakura's clear development and changes his rules when it's convenient for him. If he counts motivations as development, which I'm assuming he does based on how many times he brings it up, Sakura should clearly be superior to Temari, who has none. And this is the most egregious part of this section. When saying why we don't know Temari's wants, goals, hates, or changes in life since meeting Naruto, Jay says this, quote, to force us to know all of that about her in any significant way would probably distract from the plot, end quote. I can't make this up. So why can't Jay apply this sound logic to all of the characters outside of Team Kakashi? I'd say because it hurt his argument, but this right here just shattered it, so I don't even know what this man is thinking anymore. Well, like with Team Kurenai, I guess the story just doesn't care about Temari, right? But that doesn't seem to be a problem for him. He then compliments Tsunade and then suggests ill intent or subconscious beliefs in Kishimoto once again. He talks about Boruto at the end, but I don't care. In conclusion, this essay was a mess by another fake feminist. Jay tries to come up with a system for determining a good character, which is having character development, but he fails to prove that these characters don't have development. He keeps bringing up extra points that crumble with a little bit of thought, like motivations being tied to males or females not having clear motivations compared to their male counterparts. He shifts his grading for a good character when it suits Temari, making his entire argument so far meaningless. He assumes ill intent in the author after being a misogynist and dissing motherhood. And he is somehow rational enough to realize the ratio puzzle piece I've talked about, but not rational enough to finish the puzzle. This was bad, real bad, Michael Jackson bad. The defense rests. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.